Right guys, before we start, I'm shilling out my other social media in the video description below. You will find my BitChute channel, Gab, and a few others down there to follow me on if you've not done it already. But the point of today's video I know is something that many others have already covered, but I need to give my thoughts on it because while it may be ludicrous, I have to say I expected it and so did many other people. If you ask me, it's a stepping stone to universal basic income because without doubt the second this comes into force 5 million people develop a dry cough for the next 14 days, and as a matter of fact we'll end up with a reoccurring one every month. Now it goes without saying at this point that the batshit crazy idea itself likely ejected from Matt Hancock's mouth like the beer shits after a piss up and a curry the night before. But the funny thing is, reports claim the government have been considering this, but in actual fact it seems Headcock and his department have been planning it and then leaked it without number 10 even knowing. Which if you ask me is strange in one way but also not, given how weak Boris Johnson actually is. As we have seen, he is being bounced from pillar to post with no spine to stand up and rescue his own legacy. And also if you ask me, the leaking of this idea is to get Labour and the media on board with it in order to push Boris Johnson into making it happen. Of course, the Treasury have come out and said this plan is not only ludicrous, but as I said, something they had no idea about and will not sign off on because half of the country would become ill on the spot. Let's be honest, if this idea went ahead, the very moment it went live, there would be 2,000 people outside every testing centre around the country, which funnily enough, we don't even hear about anymore. The media have gone silent on them. This whole idea would be exploited to high heaven and could literally be called the Convid payout, because that is all it would be, a complete con on the taxpayers' money that our kids will be paying off for decades. This is going to cost something like 450 million each week. Now of course Matt Hancock will support this because it will increase the case numbers, and we all know he loves the powers that he now holds and wants to keep hold of. Plus I'm sure his paymasters will have the whip at his back, no doubt. But anyway, the Mail picked up on this with a few choice comments, so let's take a quick look at some of that. It headlines £500 COVID handouts, Minister's Eye astonishing plan to give everyone who tests positive for a virus a one-off payment to encourage more swabs at a cost of nearly £500 million a week. Because obviously they're just off their fucking rocker, ain't they? I'd love to know where they're pulling all this money from. Is it out of their arse or is it off the magic money tree? Actually, we know it's not. Our kids will have to pay it back and so will their grandkids if they continue like this. It says Matt Hancock faced a furious backlash today after bonkers plans surfaced to give everyone testing positive for COVID £500. The proposal, which would cost up to £450 million a week, is aimed at encouraging more people to undergo swabs and self-isolate to stop the virus spreading. Detailed in an official policy paper, it is said to be the preferred position of Mr. Hancock's Department of Health. Of course it fucking is. As I said, he is probably the one who is pushing this shit more than anyone else. Officials fear that too many with COVID symptoms fail to take a test in case knowing a positive result stops them working. The article goes on though, however, it appears to have blindsided Downing Street, with sources making clear number 10 had not seen the blueprint before it was leaked and warning it would create perverse incentives. Which is kinda fucking obvious and surely should have been thought of by the people who wrote the paper, as it is actual published policy paper or at least a plan if I remember rightly. Yeah, an official policy paper, it actually says it up there. Treasury officials said it was not going to happen and swiped that they had zero idea how Matt Hancock allowed it to get traction. It's just bonkers. The whole country will suddenly develop a dry cough, one said. Which I have to say is 100% spot on. Of course they fucking would. How many people are gonna do that in a heartbeat, let's be honest. Now realistically, I don't need to read any more of the article, it's just talking a load of bollocks after that. As a matter of fact, the whole article is a load of bollocks, much like the idea in general. But then again, Matt Hancock is out of his mind and we've known this for a while. The guy needs to resign. Actually, Boris Johnson needs to get a spine and sack him. It's not going to happen, but that's what needs to if you ask me.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.